Part 1. A new beginning that shouldn't have happened. The Morin family had always dreamed of owning a peaceful home away from the city. After years of saving, searching, and living in cramped apartments, they finally stumbled upon a listing that felt too good to be true. A large 2-story wooden house on the outskirts of town, surrounded by a field, a forest beyond it, and silence so deep it almost felt unreal. The house was old, certainly, and clearly neglected. The wooden porch sagged, the paint peeled like dry skin, and the shutters hung crookedly. But it had potential, or at least that's what Anton kept repeating to his wife, Leah, as he held her hand and guided her up the creaking porch. Their 8-year-old daughter, Mira, ran in circles around them, excited by the idea of having a backyard for the first time. The realtor barely stayed long enough to hand them the keys. "People don't usually stay here," she said with a smile that looked strained. When Anton asked why, she just shrugged. "Old houses, they have their stories." Leah didn't like the sound of that. She paused at the threshold, her eyes narrowing as she tried to read the strange heaviness in the air. But Mira burst inside with a squeal, and Anton wrapped an arm around his wife. "It's just an old house," he whispered. She nodded, but her fingertips felt cold. Despite the house's age, the first day was pleasant. They unpacked, dusted rooms, opened windows, and tried to fill the space with life. But as the sun dipped and long shadows stretched across the floor, Mira tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mom, why is someone crying upstairs?" Leah froze. "What do you mean, baby?" Mira pointed to the dark staircase. "A woman. She's crying because we're here." Anton overheard, laughed it off, and swept Mira into his arms. "Old house noises," he said. "Wood moves. It's windy. Nothing more." But that night, long after everyone went to bed, the house spoke again. The footsteps came first. Slow. Careful. Pacing the hallway above their room. Then the whispering, not loud, not clear, but persistent, like someone mumbling behind a closed door. Leah opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling, at the faint imprint of those footsteps. Anton slept beside her. Mira slept down the hall. The whispering grew louder. She held her breath. The house felt alive. Part 2. Shadows that refused to leave. The following days grew stranger. Doors opened on their own even after being locked. Windows slammed shut despite the calm weather. The lights flickered whenever someone walked under them, as if reacting to presence that wasn't mortal. Mira changed the most. She began drawing. At first, Leah thought it was simply her daughter's way of adapting to a new home, until she saw the sketches more closely. 3 figures appeared again and again. A tall man. A woman with long hair. And a child. But they had no faces. "Who are they?" Leah asked softly. "They live here," Mira replied without hesitation. "They used to be a family like us. But the house won't let them leave. They said it's angry we came." Leah felt ice crawl down her spine. "Mira, did you actually hear that?" Mira nodded as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Anton tried to dismiss it, the stress of the move, the imagination of a child, but even he couldn't ignore the scorching marks that appeared on one of Myra's drawings. The edges were burned. Singed. As if someone had held a flame to the paper. Then came the shattering night. Leah awoke to crying, unmistakable this time. A woman's voice echoing through the hallway. She rushed to Myra's room, opened the door, and found her daughter sitting upright, staring toward the open closet. "There," Mira whispered. "She's there." Leah turned, but saw no one. Only darkness. Yet the crying. The crying was real. Anton grabbed a flashlight and marched through the house in a panic, but the moment he reached the upper floor landing, something cold brushed past him. Jerk back. Then the house sighed. A long, defeated, heavy breath that did not belong to any human being alive. Part 3. The truth buried in the walls. The next morning, Anton decided to check the basement, a place none of them had explored yet. Dust coated everything, and cobwebs reached from the pipes to the ceiling like skeletal fingers. In the far corner, he found an old metal box. Inside were photographs. The family from Myra's drawings. The faceless silhouettes. Except now, their faces were visible, and they were terrified. On the back of the last photo, written in shaky, desperate handwriting, were the words, "We are trapped. The house will not let us go." As Anton stared at the message, every light in the basement flickered violently. The air turned freezing cold. Something stood behind him. He felt it before he heard it. A breath. A whisper. A presence. He spun around, but nothing was there. Only the sensation of being watched. Leah, meanwhile, tried to call for help, but every phone in the house died simultaneously. The power surged, sparks dancing across the outlets. The windows slammed shut. The front door locked itself with a loud metallic clank. The house wasn't just haunted. It was imprisoning them. That night, shadows gathered near the staircase. Not just movement, silhouettes. Human-shaped, hollow, swaying with the rhythm of the flames that seemed to flicker behind their outlines. Mira stood calmly, staring at them. "They want us to stay," she whispered. "The house needs a family. It wants to keep us. Forever." Leah grabbed her daughter, trembling. Anton clenched his fists, fighting the rising terror. "We're getting out," he said. But the house groaned in response. A deep, angry groan that made the walls quiver. Final part, cleansing by fire. Anton's realization came suddenly and brutally. If the house held the spirits hostage for so long, eating their memories, their lives, their souls, then only destruction could break its power. He ran to the shed and grabbed the old gas can. Leah protested at first, but she saw it too, the way the walls pulsed, the way the floorboards trembled as if reacting to their thoughts. The house knew. They poured gasoline across the floors, up the stairs, along the walls, into every corner where coldness lingered. The house screamed. Not with sound, but vibration, rattling, shaking, making the floorboards heave as if trying to throw them off. They ran outside. Anton struck a match. For a moment, the flame flickered innocently. Then he dropped it. The explosion of fire was immediate. Hungry. Roaring. Alive. The flames shot up the walls, devouring the rotten wood, streaming through the windows like serpents. In the upper floor windows, for just a moment, Leah saw them. The trapped family. The faceless silhouettes. Now watching with peaceful eyes. As the roof collapsed, Mira whispered, "Mom, they're free now." The fire burned until dawn. The house collapsed into blackened ash, its malicious presence dying with each crack and hiss of wood. When the final ember faded, a strange calm washed over the field. The air felt lighter. Warm. Alive, but in a human way this time. The Morans walked away hand in hand, the sunrise painting their silhouettes gold. They never looked back. But sometimes, when Mira dreams, she sees the old house as it once was, whole, quiet, waiting. And in the window, the freed family waves to her gently, before disappearing forever.